friends.
To the How-To Heretic.
I am Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
We're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it.
gents.
Hello.
Hello to you. Episode 114, hot out of the oven. Here we are. A fun one this week, I think. We cover a lot of bases, and that's kind of the goal.
Yeah, well, I'm specifically covering bases 1 through home run.
Yes, I know. I'm going to talk about some dinglings. I'm just going to leave it at that.
And in a departure, I'm not going to bum the two of you out, but I am going to bore the fuck out of you with the Mayan calendar.
Oh, no.
Yes.
It's you're going to say such silly words. We're all going to be so very happy.
Yes. So join us, won't you, for this joyous romp through ancient calendar systems. It's going to be amazing.
Hooray!
Uncle Dan.
Hey, Uncle Doug.
It was just, I think, a couple episodes ago we were talking and decided that this podcast is, if not already, will eventually turn into a cult.
Yeah, I mean, look, you go with what you know.
Yeah.
And we've been studying cults enough that hopefully, eventually, we'll have learned enough to become cult leaders ourselves and make that sweet, sweet cash / as mass suicide.
Yep. And we're going to go out with a premium beverage.
You are what you eat.
Yeah, it's so true. Uncle Doug, Uncle Mark, whichever one of you is in Canada, why don't you tell us? Because I think you've done some culting lately.
Yeah, I've done more culting than I like in this life. For some reason, I escaped one, and now I talk about them all the time. Which, how the fuck did that happen to me? So, yeah. We've talked about quite a number of cults on this here program, guys. Some big, some small, some long gone, oftentimes, as Doug alluded to, in some kind of mass casualty event. And there's some that are still here. Today I want to talk about one that is somehow still here, but absolutely has the smell of an impending mass casualty event about it. And it's trying in a big but very strange way to gain some real power.
Nice.
And that'll lead to maybe a little open discussion at the end about the public's right to know about a person's religious views. Won't that be exciting?
I think we're all just on tenterhooks now.
Yeah. And the cult of which I speak today, guys, bears the catchy name of the Science of Identity Foundation, or SIF for short.
Oh.
So, yeah, rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? So who or what is this exciting...
Does that make the adherents to this syphilises?
Siphites.
Siphites.
Siphums. So who or what is this exciting foundation devoted to the science of identity, whatever that might mean? Let us rewind back to the heady year of our Lord, 1970. As we've discussed many times here on the show, the babies of the post-World War II boom had yet to become Republicans and dismantle all the social programs that have delivered them a cheap, abundant life at the cost of all future generations. No, in 1970, they were still in the drug-fueled afterglow of their near-permanent adolescence of the summer of love. They were still seekers and bafflingly willing to sign up to sit cross-legged in front of any idea with a whiff of the exotic East to it. And one very fragrant Eastern idea blew into Hawaii in 1970, and that was in the form of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a Hindu holy man.
Gesundheit to both of you.
Say that 3 times. That's going to be the new sobriety test.
Yeah.
All right, say this 3 times fast. He was a Hindu holy man who founded a particular brand of Hindu devotional practice called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, a highly devoted group of people more commonly known as the Hare Krishnas.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if you're close to my age, let's call that for academic reasons, 50, you'll remember these people well. They had shaved heads minus a little rat tail, and they were dressed in various shades of saffron robes and pantaloons, and they were either chanting and clanging bells endlessly or handing out free copies of their holy book, the Bhagavad Gita. They were always hanging out at airports, bus stations, public parks, and tourist spots, but they seem to have disappeared, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
You don't
travel
see
a
them
lot.
much.
I haven't seen them for years, like
Yeah.
years and years.
And you know what? I don't miss them.
I don't.
I see them every time I rewatch Airplane.
Exactly.
Right. Well, that's how ubiquitous they were in culture, right? They were everywhere. And they were, always in orange, and they very much set themselves apart from society. But they seem to have just kind of blown away. I don't know if they changed up the look or what. But anyway,
Well, it's a thankful thing one way or the other.
yes, I'm not complaining. Anyway, back to Hawaii in 1970. The aforementioned A.C. Swami Prabhupada felt he would find many disciples among the island's abundant supply of free love flower children living the dreamy aloha life. And he was right. One of these eager seekers that glommed onto the Swami was a guy called Chris Butler. Butler was born in Louisiana.
That is too easy of a name. You're going to have to change that.
I think you nailed that one.
Wait till you hear what he changed it to.
Yep. I knew it would have to change. I knew that we couldn't just stick with that.
Yeah, brace yourselves. No amount of practice has prepared me for this name. So, Butler was born in Louisiana and would later claim that his family was chased out of there by the CIA when he was 2. That's called,
Of course,
that's called
totally
foreshadowing.
happened.
However they left, the Butler family wound up in Hawaii, where his father, both a medical doctor and a communist, would drag his children out to protest American involvement in the Vietnam War, earning them all sorts of abuse by an angry public. But Butler was a poor student and apparently an all-around general fuck-up. But like many of the mediocrities we examine who become cult leaders, Joseph Smith, Jim Jones, David Koresh, Warren Jeffs, he possessed a certain magnetism, and he knew it. Tall and good-looking, he had penetrating blue eyes that some women found irresistible. He soon turned his devotion to Swami Prabhupada and the Hare Krishna practice into an opportunity to start his own chapter of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and place himself in leadership. This was at first supported by its founder, Swami Prabhupada, but the relationship became tense and eventually toxic as Butler demanded more and more autonomy, wishing to create the chapter more in his own image than that of Krishna. Now, quick visual aside, guys. I said he was magnetic and good-looking. I'm going to send you over a couple of pictures right here from recently. It turns out that time and batshittery can be rough on the magnetism. So here he comes. Take a look. Feast your poopers.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Damn.
I haven't
Yeah.
gotten it yet, but I believe.
Yeah, it's it's been a rough 40 years. I'll just say that.
Yeah, it looks like Jeff Bezos stopped drinking water and lived to be 150.
Pretty much. So anyway, that's just a little visual for later. So the split with the Hare Krishnas did not fully occur until Swami Prabhupada gave Butler his own Swami Hindu name, and I'm going to nail this, Jagadguru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
He's speaking in tongues. We have to do something.
Which is how he insists on being referred to this day. And while I hate to dead name anybody, I can't pronounce his new name, so we're just going to stay with Butler. So
He was the worst clue on Wheel of Fortune ever.
oh my God. So Butler broke away from the Hare Krishnas and founded his own consciousness-raising little tribe, the Science of Identity Foundation, which is still in existence today. Now,
And which probably is really good at science and really good at identity, I'm guessing.
it's funny how those things always tend that way, isn't it? Like, it's really not about either of those things.
Right.
Now, what sets the very particular devotional practice of the Hare Krishnas apart from general Hinduism, as I read it, is the devotion to a single god, that being Krishna, who we can talk about in detail another time because Krishna's very fascinating. But why that matters here is that Butler kept that tenet of the faith, but ever so slowly pushed Krishna out of the frame and replaced him with himself. So,
right, that's what you do.
That's what you do. The oddly magnetic
That's how
butler,
the bait and switch works.
Yeah, baby. Classic. So the oddly magnetic butler was now what he knew. He was destined to become God. Now, even with as much as I've read and written on the cultist mindset over these years, and even being a cult survivor myself, I just can't wrap my head around the kind of personality that was as happy as a clam to worship Krishna one day, then just swap him out for a tall, handsome surfer and sea student the next. That's exactly what happened. And really, he didn't lose any significant number of followers. So,
well, I mean, here's the thing. You've been worshiping Krishna this whole time, or at least that's what you've been told. But the guy who's been talking to you the entire time is right there in front of you. It's a lot easier. That's a natural thing, right?
That
there.
sounded like the speech from Notting Hill, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just a guru standing in front of a boy, hoping that he'll still love him.
He's been standing outside your window with a boombox over his head this whole time. So Butler began to use his platform as God to rant about all the things he hates. Is this inconsistent with the notion of what a god is? Abso-fucking-lutely not, as anyone who has read an obscure little book simply called The Bible will know. That book is a little more than a preening, weird, insecure god screaming, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, at the top of his lungs, and then killing off a whole planet full of people in a completely incoherent fit of rage. So Butler's rants are a piece with that sort of god. So he embraced a bizarre and incoherent set of political philosophies that lean mostly to the right, and people feel like this is a reaction to his father's communist leanings, and he despised his father. Yet he was and is, he's still around, fervently pro-environmental regulation, and has some other kind of leftist policies, but it's a bit incoherent. But maybe the political position he is best known for is a ferocious hatred of all things LGBTQ.
Interesting.
Yeah. He's
That's
a
fun.
vociferous homophobe, and survivors of his cult describe endless lectures with extremely graphic language about all varieties of the sexual depredations of people he casually just calls faggots.
That's nice.
Yeah, he's a holy man. He's also a kook. He's also a kook in other classic ways. He's a total germaphobe and insists everyone around him has to wear masks.
Oh, wow.
Every space he occupies has to be outfitted with massive air filtration systems, including airplanes, making air travel a little bit more difficult for him than most. And he insists every room he occupies has to be lined with, want to take a guess, fellas? It's classic.
Plastic?
No. I'm going to go with
Virgins?
bread.
No.
I don't know. What is it?
Oh, come on, guys. Tinfoil.
Oh,
How did you miss that?
Oh, wow. We didn't. You know what? I was trying to think in terms of like religion and not like cuckoo. So I should have gone further down the cuckoo.
I like that you find a way to separate those things.
It's cute, isn't it?
Completely lined in tin. All his houses are completely lined in tinfoil.
That's good.
Yeah, to protect him from whatever he thinks is trying to get him. I don't really give a shit. So he generally hates any form of education that doesn't emanate from his frothing mouth. So naturally, he set up a series of boarding schools in which survivors recount cold pre-dawn showers, constant hunger, and hours of chanting, but not much in the way of education, plus shockingly mild sexual abuse, given the typical pathology of cults in children. Really, it was more just the sort of behavior of too many unsupervised boys with nothing to do. And speaking of which, young students were constantly shown graphic footage of gay sexual activity and then gruesome footage of AIDS sufferers dying in agony.
Oh my God.
Normal school shit. So
Did he actually go? I mean, if he's going to go the distance, he's got to put the Clockwork Orange things on the eyeballs. Otherwise, the kids could close their eyes if they're not careful.
Well, they weren't allowed to watch any other sort of media. They couldn't watch TV or movies or anything. So it's probably as close as they got to entertainment. So that's not sick.
No.
So some of these schools were supervised by a guy who is, to this day, a Hawaii state senator, and more on him in just a tick. But back to Butler's anti-equality passions. Like the Rajneeshis, who listeners might recall from the excellent docuseries Wild Wild Country.
Oh my God, that
Butler
series! People need
it's
to watch
so good,
that.
right? So good. Have you seen it, Dan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
So Butler wanted to gain power via the political process, but attempted to do it in a more stealthy way than the reckless Rajneeshis, who were pretty fucking open about their madness, right? So he created a front group called Independence for Godly Government. I don't know how good a front that was. And he had followers run for office. One of these fervently devoted followers that ran and won was the very same guy who set up the boarding schools I just talked about, a guy named Mike Gabbard. So he started a local radio show in the 80s called Let's Talk Straight Hawaii to promote his nonprofit, which is literally called Stop Promoting Homosexuality America, or SFA. Isn't that nice?
So wait. When he said, let's talk straight Hawaii, I was going to make a joke about it being anti-gay, but that's actually what it was. It was straight meaning straight.
Yes, straight. That it was a homophobic radio show in the beautiful state of Hawaii. So, isn't that nice? So at the time, there was a movement in Hawaii for marriage equality. And this is where we get to do a little cross-promotion, guys, because there was another group just as homophobic and desperate to prevent any forward movement on human rights anywhere. Can you guess who, guys?
Oh, I know. I know exactly who that is. That's our own homegrown guys.
Me!
That's us.
The Mormons, fellas. And as we know, the Mormons also created stealthy front groups of their own and poured millions into the fight against marriage equality in Hawaii. Cults. More the same than different since forever. So that's nice, isn't it? Anyway, Mike Gabbard ran for city council and won, and his young daughter, Tulsi, helped knock doors and pass out flyers for his basically single-issue pro-homophobia campaign. She also helped
Tulsi Gabbard. Wait, I've almost not heard that name before.
Yeah, I buried the lead, didn't I? So she also helped when he ran on essentially the same homophobic platform and became a Hawaii state senator, as I already mentioned, a position he still holds today. So, yeah, bigots in Hawaii too. What are you going to do? So this was a long walk to get to a sort of punchline, and that is, in air quotes, Democratic Congressperson and extreme long-shot presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard, and her connection to this obviously batshit man god, the jagged guru Chris Butler.
Wow.
Tulsi is rightly considered a bit of an enigma. She's obviously very intelligent, despite the bizarre homeschooling she got in her cult. She's one of the better-looking people ever to stalk the halls of Congress. Not a terribly fierce competition, admittedly. She is an Iraq War vet. She's half Samoan. She claims to have evolved at least to a place of live and let live tolerance on marriage equality.
Oh, that's nice.
No, wow, what a generous position that is to take.
Isn't that kind? It's very kind. And she is anti-marijuana prohibition. But much like Trump, she seems drawn to male authoritarian figures like Assad in Syria, who she went to visit in a very bizarre episode, and Vladimir Putin, of course, but most especially right-wing Hindu nationalist Narendra Modi of India, for whom she reserves awed praise. And the dictatorial Modi lavishes her with praise and gifts, seeing her as his foothold in the U.S. Congress.
Well, that's it. Does that have to do with the sort of bizarre Indian guru heritage of this guy who's no longer aligning himself with anything Hindu or Indian?
Right. It seems probably.
Yeah.
And some people have mistaken her because she's kind of has olive skin and dark hair. Some people have thought, oh, well, maybe she's Indian American, and she's not at all. She's half Samoan, half white, half Samoan. So she has no Indian heritage that backs up the Hindu thing. And you are correct in saying that the Chris Butler and his cult have completely moved away from Hinduism. They don't describe themselves as Hindu at all. So she certainly could be, right? There's no saying she's not Hindu, but it's just the chain of Hindu custody seems a bit strange as it gets to her. So
yeah,
she's also a darling of Fox News, where she's all too happy to slash and burn other Democrats to the delight of the fascist shitbags squealing in the studio. So, like I said, she's
to the point
an
where
enigma.
like people are accusing her of being a Russian asset,
Like a
at
plant.
this point,
Yeah.
because she's so willing to literally spout Republican talking points. It's bizarre.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very strange behavior. But if you kind of, if you forensically tie it back to Butler's bizarre cosmology and politics, it's kind of in line with that, right?
Yeah, that's so weird.
Well, and she's popular enough that she was on the debate stage the other night, and Julian Castro was not.
There you go.
And to be truly fair, how a person is raised is not their fault. Thank God for the three of us, right?
Yeah, right.
Plenty of
Just
people are
keep
raised.
telling yourselves that.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Plenty of people are raised in cults or other weird situations and break free and work to put together some semblance of a sane life in the wreckage. Her parents, and her mom is the same way, her parents being vicious homophobes shouldn't be counted against her unless. You see, guys, Tulsi, while admitting to having evolved on LGBTQ issues to an extent, is almost pathologically silent about her young life and her connection to Chris Butler. She will not answer questions about it, accusing anyone who asks of being Hindu-phobic bigots. This is
weird.
clear. Yeah, instantly you're like, you're a Hindu-phobic, you hate Hindus, you're a Hindu-phobic bigot. This is clearly absurd. She came out of a very bizarre, politically belligerent, anti-human rights extremist cult. In the past, as an adult and politician, because she started winning office very, very young, in the past she publicly parroted Butler's politics and hatreds. Voters have a right to know if she still holds these beliefs and if she still believes this Hawaiian Howard Hughes is God. And small point, as we were just mentioning before, I want to make it clear, the cult and Butler do not identify as Hindu in any way at all anymore. So I don't know what to make of that. But
That's so interesting because I just looked up Tulsi Gabbard's IMDb page, and it lists her at least in part as having grown up Hindu, or it says she embraced the Hindu faith as a teenager.
well, that's true
fascinating.
because when her parents joined Butler's cult, he was just a cleric, running a local chapter of the Hare Krishnas.
It was still Hindu at the time.
Right.
Right. It was still Hindu, and so but it evolved over time as Butler kind of made it about him rather than Krishna, to the degree where now they have no connection to Krishna at all.
That's so nuts.
They still do chanting. They do a lot of things that look like Hinduism,
Right.
but they aren't. So
They have 100% more tinfoil.
It's entirely possible that she kept that tradition, that she kept that faith when the family diverged from it, but she won't talk about it, right?
Right.
She refuses every opportunity to disavow or to embrace Butler's divinity and teachings. And her campaign is staffed by other members of the Butler cult.
Oh,
her
wow.
parents are still fully involved in it, and her fiancé was also raised in the cult. In 2015, she recorded a video praising Butler as her guru by his fancy name. But, as for you pieces of shit out there, it seems like none of that is any of your business, right?
Right.
So this is what I want to talk about here a little bit, guys, at the end of our segment, is people like Tulsi Gabbard and our friend Mitt Romney seem to think their histories with high demand religions with, unquestionable charismatic leaders are none of our business. And I, for one, disagree.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, it's funny because a politician's belief system is their business until it informs anything in how
Yes.
they do their job, which
Yes.
it invariably must. So guess what? We got to know.
Yeah. But it's also, whenever a politician is running for office, there's always a biopic or, a biography. And we find out about how hard Scrabble their parents were, and where they grew up in the Midwest and learned Midwestern fucking values.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with the Midwest.
The color of the bootstraps that they use to pull themselves up.
And then
Exactly.
yada, yada, yada. And now they're in Congress. You know what I mean? Like, it's this one thing that's the fundamental thing that they believe.
If it wasn't for Joe Biden, I wouldn't even know Scranton existed. Right?
Yeah.
That's a Joe Biden deep cut.
This one thing that means so much to them and truly informs their worldview, we don't get to talk about. Like, Mitt Romney never had to answer questions about Mormonism.
Which is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. And so, you know, I just read, I just heard our former mayor, Rocky Anderson, our former Salt Lake City mayor, before our recent mayoral elections in Salt Lake City on the radio talking about one of the candidates, Luz, and how she was kind of squirrely about admitting her Mormon beliefs.
She was.
And then when I read a little bit further, she was kind of an apologist for conversion therapy, the horrible practice of trying to torture gay teenagers into not being gay anymore.
Right.
And that's because of Mormonism.
Yep.
Right? So that's not okay. That is her religion infecting her politics in a negative way that could cause, you know, considerable harm to people.
Well, and when you think about someone who follows a religion that has a leader who is not allowed to be questioned. Mormonism has a leader that you're not allowed to question. The Catholicism has a leader that you're not allowed to question. And having a as your leader, who is a god, a self-declared sort of god among men, it means that at some point there's somebody who could say, hey, president person, I command you to do X.
And that was exactly the fear that surrounded Kennedy when he ran as the first Catholic. Right. And he had to address it, and he had to address it directly. I mean, if you go back and read the speech, and we talked about, I'm an American and then a Catholic. You know what I mean? Mitt Romney gave his speech in 2012, which was the exact opposite.
Right.
I'm a Mormon, shut the fuck up, vote for me.
How dare you?
Right. Yeah.
How dare you even talk about, there is no America without religion was the point of his speech.
Right.
We've gotten so far afield from, you know, Tulsi Gabbard having to you know, explain herself. Do you believe this guy is a living God? And if he orders you to launch the nukes, will you do it?
Right.
I'm sorry. I think we need to know that.
Yeah, that's a pretty valid question. Fortunately, this woman has no chance of even becoming a nominee.
What, fuckers? We were saying the same thing about a certain real estate developer, multiple married, bankrupt piece of shit like 3 years ago. So
that's true.
I don't know. The American public has proved itself to be refreshingly stupid on more than one occasion. So
it is refreshing. It is every time you encounter it, it's a new version of the stupid, and it's cute.
You know what I just realized, and it just occurred to me too, is Barack Obama did have to face these questions. Remember when Reverend Wright?
It's true.
They played his speeches and demanded that Barack Obama explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What was it about Barack Obama that made him different from all the others?
It was that he was a Hawaiian.
That's what it is.
Oh wait, no,
no.
That's not right.
Fuck.
The same demands were made of Ilhan Omar.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
The first Somali American congressperson, and you know, I don't know the degree of her Muslim practice. But her progressive politics tell me she can't be that severe a Muslim. But yeah, the right wing demanded answers. You know, is she a terrorist?
Yeah,
and
I do think those questions should be asked, but I think they should be asked of everybody.
Yeah.
Especially when the guy that leads your church looks like the one I just sent you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the problem with how the right has tied itself so dramatically. Because, like, fuck, if you got right-wing politics in you, I'm not going to take issue with that. But the problem is that if you believe that the purpose of your politics is to enshrine your belief system, your religious belief system, and sort of enforce it on and push it onto everybody else, or at least make everybody else abide by the rules of your belief system, then we got a problem, and that is a distinct that is what's happening.
The irony, of course.
Sorry, Doug.
Oh, I was going to say the irony, of course, is that the most reckless and dangerous president in our history believes in exactly nothing.
Well, there's that.
Well, as we concluded a couple of weeks ago, you're not an atheist if you think you yourself are God.
Right.
But I think that I would rather have the Mike Huckabees, who are very public about their garbage beliefs, be very public about it, than Tulsi Gabbard being so secretive and stealthy about what she believes and how much command this guy has over her life. Right.
Right.
Vote Huckabee.
That level of caginess
Oh my
is
God!
scary.
Yeah. I guess I just endorsed Mike Huckabee. So
Yeah.
that's the last podcast, guys. Thanks for everything. Dan, turn the lights out. All right, let's move on.
Well, with those glaring endorsements in place, I think we can move on. Hey, Uncle Mark.
Yes, here I am.
I just got back from Mexico.
Oh yes, what a wonderful place to go this time of year.
Yeah, apparently not. It is hot as shit in November. I did
Really?
not realize that. It
Is it?
It was like almost 90 degrees with 90% humidity.
Wow. Oh, that's hot.
I found myself in the very same jungle that Predator was filmed in.
Oh, cool.
And no, it's very warm. It's very hot.
That's hot, Dan. That's hot.
It's hot there, and one of the things that you learn is that any religion that crops up in that region of the world would have to be mostly heat and bug based, is what I'm thinking. But I think that Doug's here to tell us all about the heat and the bug based religion.
The Doug-based blood cults of Central
the heat
America.
and the Doug base.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
right.
I am actually not all about them, but about one particular thing in detail.
Okay.
So I think I've really turned a corner here. I've managed to come here today to talk about a subject that is not Mormon related, not Bible related, and which is not a total bummer. So
What?
That's something.
I
You're
don't
on the wrong
trust you now.
podcast, buddy.
Today I want to talk about the end of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least an end of the world prediction that came and went with little fanfare and was essentially an ancient version of Y2K.
I feel like there was some fanfare. I feel like the fanfare.
There was a little bit of fanfare. If you're not old enough to know what Y2K is, just know that I hate you. So let me set the stage for today's subject, and like Uncle Mark, I'm going to ask you to come back with me, if you will, to a headier time when Game of Thrones had just wrapped up its second season and hadn't yet been ruined by two frat boy gym buddies. Barack Obama had just spanked the garments off local oligarch Mitt Romney. Oh, say local oligarch 3 times. Welcome to late 2012. Now, if any one of a million things had gone differently, we'd be living through the second Romney administration instead of the biker drug-fueled berserker Thunderdome we're now trying to survive. Can you imagine using a time machine to go back to yourself in 2012, like in October, and be like, listen, I know this sounds crazy, but you have to vote for Mitt Romney.
Just do it. I can't tell you why because you won't believe me.
You won't believe me. Anywho, late 2012 was also important, at least to a certain set, for a very different reason, specifically December 21st, 2012, because that's when it was said the Mayans, who very much failed to predict the end of their world, predicted the end of ours. Now, true or not, this idea was well known around the globe at the time, not least because Roland Emmerich's colossally stupid movie 2012 was an international blockbuster with the tagline, "We were warned." This was a movie, by the way.
Can I just add a bit of color? Can I just add a bit of color? He's a really nice guy.
Fair enough.
Yes, I shared a table at a McDonald's with him, and he ate it. It's true. I had a Big Mac, and he had a Happy Meal, and I'm not even lying. And that's just, a little color there.
I actually have heard that he's actually quite nice. That doesn't
crazy
change the
nice
fact
guy. Yeah.
he makes very bad movies.
Yeah.
And
He
this
does,
movie, by
yes.
the way, 2012, was a movie so determined to prove its own pointlessness that it was released in 2009. So, now...
Well, you got to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, if you release 2012 and 2014, you've already missed it. The window is
That's
small.
true.
And the world's gone.
Yes, but it was a movie so forgettable that it was completely forgotten by 2010.
I'll be honest, I had forgotten that movie existed until you said it. I was like, oh, fuck,
So,
right.
Do not watch that movie. Okay, so like many of the subjects we've talked about on this show, there is a nugget of truth buried deep inside this conspiracy theory. But as we've also said many times before, a little bit of science mixed in with a whole lot of dumb can be a very bad thing. And dumb this was, yet convincing enough to people around the world that there was panic buying of candles in China, tinned goods and matches in Russia, an influx of believers to the French Pyrenees under the belief that a UFO would scoop them up at the last second.
Yeah.
And,
Classic.
of course, pilgrimages...
Is that why we were there? I forgot.
And,
Classic.
of course, pilgrimages of turquoise-bestudded white people to the desert southwest. So, in spite of the fact that the Mayan calendar has been around since, well, the Mayans, and in spite of the fact that there are descendants of the Mayans in Guatemala that still use and therefore understand this calendar, and in spite of the fact that German librarian Ernst Forstemann decoded the calendar in the 1880s, this doomsday prophecy didn't become popular until the New Age movement in America got a hold of it in the 1970s. With books such as Mexico Mystique, The Coming Sixth Age of Consciousness, The Transformative Vision, and The Invisible Landscape brought this prophecy into popular culture. It didn't hurt that popular culture at the time, and even now, is obsessed with end-of-the-world predictions. Think the Left Behind series or the myriad doomsday cults we've covered on this show.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the true part of this theory and how crystal-wielding dingleberries in New Mexico got it so wrong. And I can say they got it wrong with a high degree of confidence because we are still here.
You're right.
A disclaimer here. I am going to say a bunch of Mayan words, and I am going to say them wrong. But unless you are, in fact, a Mayan, or at least a PhD-level Mayan scholar, don't you dare fucking at me.
Yeah, get stuffed.
So you're inviting those people to at you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. The Mayan calendar is an incredibly complex and versatile system of marking time, and is absolutely chock through with religious meaning as well. So basically, there are three main systems for marking time, and although each serves a different purpose, they are intertwined in ways that are completely mind-blowing. The fact that an ancient culture that didn't have steel or the wheel could come up with something this complex and accurate is absolutely incredible. The fact that they made it in the shape of a wheel only speaks to how a culture can be so smart and so dumb at the same time.
Hey, what are you going to use that for? I thought I'd chisel a calendar onto it.
Yeah, you know, and
Could you do anything else with it? No. No. It's mostly a calendar, I think.
They rolled it around to meetings, you know. It's like here we go. There's the calendar. And that's all that's good for.
So the three main systems are the Tzolk'in, which is basically the religious calendar based on a 260-day cycle, the Hob, which is a solar calendar and is closest to what we would consider a calendar based on a 365-day cycle, and the long count that was used to calculate large spans of time. So the Mayan number system, and therefore their calendar, are vegisimal. Vegisimal?
That means they don't have meat.
You can at me for that one. That is to say, it is a base 20 system instead of, say, the metric system, which is base 10, or our idiotic imperial system that is based on how many hogs head to the rod. As the Tzolk'in and the Hob run concurrently, one full cycle for each of these two systems to reach the same endpoint takes exactly 18,980 days, or 52 years on the button, and is called a calendar round. One thing to note, the system of marking time is far more complex than the ubiquitous circular stone calendars, which were more of a symbol. There's a ton of information, history, and symbolism on these stone calendars, but there's a lot of information that's not there. One of the most famous and iconic of these stone Mayan calendars is the one on display at the National Anthropology Museum in Mexico City, where Uncle Mark and I have been to. So
it's
bragging.
extraordinary.
Jesus Christ.
You were just bragging about Puerto Vallarta. I'm going to drop my Mexico City vacation in.
It's for me. I get to brag, not you.
Yeah, no, they're beautiful. Like the calendars, they're just extraordinary.
Yeah, they are.
Incredible.
Absolutely. So if you want to follow along at home, Google that one. So the center of the calendar has a depiction most often of the sun god Tonatiuh with a flint blade protruding from his mouth, decorative ear spools, and clawed hands, sometimes with human hearts in them. He is surrounded by a record of the 4 previous creations and how they came to end. Even though our current creation, or sun, is the 5th sun, it is referred to as the 4 movement. The 4 previous creations and how they met their end are, and this is going from the top right and moving counterclockwise. Everything in the Mayan calendar goes counterclockwise. 4 jaguar, 4 wind, 4 rain, and 4 water. So in 4 jaguar, the first creation, man was killed off by jaguars. In 4 wind, it was wind. 4 rain was actually a rain of fire, and 4 water was floods.
Oh boy, you got to feel dumb about having been killed by the wind one. Like if you were in the wind one, you got to feel like an idiot a little bit.
I think the residents of Puerto Rico would would differ with you on that one.
Well, maybe whoever that they went outside. There was a slight Mayan monarch that went outside on a gusty day in too blousy an outfit, right? And poof, off they go.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
The Mayans predicted that this creation, our current one, would come to an end from earthquakes, hence for movement. And that's also why all the talk about the end of the world in 2012 revolved around global earthquakes. So the Tzolk'in, or religious calendar, was mostly to mark the dates of religious festivals or holy days, and doesn't really have a lot to do with the end of the world theory, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. It consists of 20 day names and 13 day numbers. Each day is given a successive number and day name, so it's 20 times 13, which is how you get to the 260-day cycle. The next ring of glyphs on the stone calendar are the 20 day names of the Tzolk'in. The Hob, which is the solar calendar, consists of 18 months made up of 20 days each, and which is how we get to the 360-day cycle. And yes, the solar cycle does have 365 days, and how the Mayans deal with those missing 5 days is really interesting, and I'll talk about that in just a minute.
Okay.
So the days of the Hob were named in the opposite way as the Tzolk'in days, with a number going from 0 to 19, and then the name of the month. So 0 Pax, 7 Zul, or 14 Pop, for example.
Uno.
Now,
I feel like there's a board game here. I'm pretty sure you're playing a board game.
We should make a board game in the shape of the Mayan calendar.
Yeah, and then if you have 0 Pax, then you have to go 3 steps ahead to 5 Zul or whatever it is. That you're...
And if you lose, I cut your heart out.
Yeah,
Isn't 0 Pop the guy that Joe Biden had the fight with when he was a lifeguard? See, it all ties together. It's incredible.
It's all Biden all the time with you, Uncle Mark.
We got Biden on the brain today.
So this calendar is crazy in its complexity. So, for example, every Hob day corresponds to a Tzolk'in day, but not every possible combination of Tzolk'in and Hob can even occur. That sounds crazy, I know. It sounds ridiculous. I don't even know what I'm saying. For the Tzolk'in days, Imix, Kimi, Chuen, and Kib, the Hob day can only be 4, 9, 14, or 19. For the Tzolk'in day Ik, Manik, Eb, or Kaban, the Hob day can only be 0, 5, 10, or 15. It's fucking crazy, and it's full of patterns like this. So
I'm thinking that there's some very small group of scholars who just thought, let's just fuck with everybody. This is just a bunch of pictures. We haven't figured anything out yet, but I'll bet we could trick some folks.
Well, they fooled me and a bunch of other dumb people.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the calendar round dates would repeat every 18,980 days, or 52 years, which was roughly one human lifespan at the time. And since the Mayans had a very expansive view of time, they needed longer measurements for truly large units of time. So they came up with the long count calendar. As I mentioned earlier, theirs was a 20-base system. Base 20 system, which means that each unit of time is 20 times larger than the previous one, with one notable exception. So, one day is called a kin, 20 kins are called a weanal. Here's the exception: 18 weanals are called a tune, 20 tunes are called a katoon, and 20 katoons are called a baktoon. A baktoon being then equivalent to 144,000 days, or 394 years.
Do you ever find yourself sitting in your own podcast wondering what it's even about anymore?
Just strap in. Now, the reason there are only 18 weanals in a tune is really interesting. Remember? Stop laughing. That's not supposed to be funny.
But it is. For the rest of my life, I will always want to know how many weanals in a tune.
Doug, you're only ever funny by accident, so don't tell us how to feel.
Shut up. Okay, so I'll teach you how many weanals in a tune. Each weanal has 18 days, so 18 times 20 equals 360.
I'll leave it alone.
18 times 20 equals 360, making a tune really close to a calendar year. But as I hinted at a second ago, exactly 5 days short.
Right.
So as I've mentioned, each day of the year had a name except for these 5 days. They were simply left nameless and were collectively referred to as the Wayeb. So the 5 days of Wayeb were kind of thought of as a celestial mistake and considered to be a dangerous time when the portals between the mortal realm and the underworld dissolved. So during Wayeb, Mayans would try not to go outside and avoided washing or combing their hair, among other rituals to ward off evil.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, really interesting. So
I celebrate that with my hair all the time. It's a hat day for me today. It must be Wayeb.
Every day's Wayeb for me. So by rolling back all of these measurements of time, Mayanists, which is the true name of a Mayan scholar, have been able to determine the Mayan date of creation. So our current creation occurred on August 11th, 3114 BCE, which would read 0.0.0.0.0, meaning 0 kins, 0 weanals, 0 tunes, 0 katuns, and 0 baktuns.
Okay.
You with me?
Yeah.
My birthday is 12.18.0.17.16. That is to say, from the date of creation to my birth, there were 12 baktuns, 18 katuns, 0 tunes, 17 weanals, and 16 kins. Got it?
Got it.
So
Yeah, hold on, writing it down. Okay, go ahead.
It's all tunes and weanals to me.
here's where we finally get to the weirdness surrounding the end of the world and why some very dumb people sold everything they owned in Q4 of 2012 and really don't want to talk about it anymore. Thank you very much. December 21st, 2013 is 13.0.0.0.0, or the end of the baktun. But here's the other thing. Even though December 21st, 2012 means a whole new baktun, there have been 12 previous baktuns since the last creation. The most recent was on September 18th, 1618, when the Mayan date was 12.0.0.0.0. Got it?
Yeah.
Adding a little bit of legitimacy to this prophecy, it is apparently true that the Mayans believed that the last creation lasted exactly 13 baktuns. But there is nothing in Mayan legend or history that would lead us to think the Mayans believed that would be the case in this creation, and most scholars agree that the Mayans simply believed that December 22nd, 2012 would be 13.0.0.0.1.
Right.
Okay. Incidentally, the next baktun will occur on March 26th, 2407.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to that one. The party's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's just, I couldn't help myself. In the long count calendar, there are 4 even larger, rarely used units of measure, each 20 times greater than the last.
Jesus.
They are the Piktun, the Kalabtun, the Kinchiltun, and the Alautun. One Alautun consists of 23,400,000,000 days, or 63,123,287 years.
Okay.
So that means since the actual creation of the Earth 4.5 billion years ago, there have only been 71.2 Alautuns. Wow. So take that to the bank. Now,
I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life.
Big thinkers, these Mayans.
Yeah.
I am only scratching the surface of this stuff. There are entire concepts like year bearers, Lords of the Night, and the 819-day count that I'm not even going to try and get into. In fact, I was barely able to wrap my head around most of the stuff I have talked about. So you can be forgiven, at least as far as it goes, for imbuing some kind of mystical import to a system as complex and exotic as this, like Kabbalah or the Kardashians. You can imagine that some new age whack job in the early 1970s coming down off ayahuasca, realizing that the Mayans thought that the last creation lasted 13 baktuns, and according to their own calendar, the 13 baktuns of this creation were in a few short decades, having what passed for his mind completely blown. So all that's left is to believe that this was not merely a coincidence, but that the Mayans actually could see into the future, and to believe that their vision of the future somehow managed to miss some very contagious Spaniards. And if this podcast has taught us anything, people are that stupid. So there it is, the mystery of the Mayan calendar.
Little aside, the Mayans were, I do believe the Mayans had already kind of declined as a civilization when the Spanish
they
showed
had
up.
certainly. Fuck you, Mark.
Well, actually, discover. No, I had a period. I went through a real Mayan period. And,
I know, I remember.
Yeah, and you and I ended up going to a Mayan site. If you've never been, they'll blow your fucking brains out of your head. They're so amazing.
Went to 2. Yeah.
I remember trying to understand the calendar, and I just had to stop trying. I'm like, I can't do this. So
you can spend a baktun trying to figure that thing out.
Well, that's a real bummer, Mark, because it took me like 2 hours.
You can bust a weenus trying to figure out this thing. So,
well, I thank you, Uncle Doug, for that enlightening.
Clear as mud.
It was literally every bit. That was actually made more sense than when Harold Camping predicted the end of the world. So I'm going to give him partial credit.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. And so tune in next week for Calendars of the World with Uncle Doug.
All right, let's move on
before the next baktun.
Hey, boys.
Hi.
Hello.
Listen, we do this as a service, as a public service. We do it for free
That's right.
Yep.
Unless somebody is fool enough to choose not to do it for free. And then they graduate from being cheap-ass Wednesday people to awesome Monday people.
Just think about the jump you can get on the week.
Exactly. You will know before everyone else how many tunes are in a Bach tune.
That's right. You, at the water cooler, you will have hot takes on 9th century popes that nobody else does.
Exactly. So let's talk about the people who have made that leap this week.
Yes.
We owe great thanks and joy to Rachel, Chili, David, Eric, and to Jim. And actually, Uncle Mark, I said Rachel, but we owe her a little bit of something. So I would like you to grace her with a saint.
Oh my
Conjure
God,
us a saint.
We're ensainting Rachel. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
indeed.
Okay. So Rachel's patron saint is Saint Abernathy of Naples and Florida. And Saint Abernathy of Naples, Florida is the patron saint of that expose about the Olive Garden.
Okay,
it was really salacious and ugly. She's also the patron saint of Manitoba and the patron saint of Certs, the breath freshener. So,
Keep it fresh, baby. I love it. I love it. Well,
she's a
Rachel
classic.
and all of our patrons, you are the greater of the people.
Yes.
So there you go. If any of you listeners who have not yet decided to become patrons would like to be greater than you are now, you can do so by going to the howtoheretic.com. It's just howtoheretic. Don't put a the there.
Yeah.
.com. And there, then you can find the support stuff and become a patron. You choose.
Yeah.
How much you're willing to give per month.
Give us a Bach tune. Give us a Weenel.
Whatever. Exactly.
We're not on the gold standard anymore. Money's not even real. What does it matter? Just put numbers. Press send. Do it.
You make a very good point. And if you can't afford that, we're not mad. Just you can afford to give us 5 stars on any platform out there.
Stars
so
are free.
do so.
TripAdvisor, Yelp, Grindr, whatever.
Whatever.
That's right.
Uber, it's fine. Give us 5 stars and we'll all be very happy.
Yes, let's do it, and let's move on. Uncle Doug.
Uncle Mark.
You know what they say cleanliness is next to?
Me?
No. That's
Not
what
even
they say at all.
adjacent, really.
No, not even approximate. No, it's next to godliness, Doug. And cleanliness can occur on more than one level. I think.
True.
Keeping it clean. That's what our whole podcast has always been about.
Yep, and that's kind of all I have to say about this. So, Uncle Dan, do you have any opinions about the cleanliness and value of certain things?
I suppose so. Here's the thing. It's Thanksgiving time, and I was looking for something to talk about that related to that, and I had been reading all about the quote-unquote pilgrims and their peace accord and subsequent betrayal and destruction of the Wampanoag Indians. But having covered a bunch of that stuff about those self-righteous shitbag Puritans in episode 61, I decided to head in a different direction. And that direction was to discuss the legacy that our country's puritanical underpinnings have given us, even to this day. Because guess what? We're all shitbag Puritans too, to some extent or other. Like that's what our country has become. So yeah, there's cleanliness in that puritanical sense. Specifically, I want to talk about the United States and our relationship to sex and sex-adjacent topics. Because although we've had what we termed a sexual revolution, and we've stopped, sentencing adulterous women into wearing letters or putting gay folk in jail for buggery. Hell, those sodomy laws were done away with nationwide all the way back in, checking my notes here, 1960. Oh, nope, it was 2003. But we're still very, very very backwards when it comes to sex. As a matter of fact, it was just a couple weeks ago, for example, that a woman right here in the great state of Utah was brought up on lewdness charges when her stepkids walked in on her topless and she didn't do the obviously moral thing and scream as she dove modestly behind a sofa. Instead, she used it as a teaching moment to try and indoctrinate the children into the disgusting belief that human bodies, even the girl ones, are not inherently evil, and that seeing titties isn't a sexual act.
And they called the cops on her?
The kid's mom, because she was a
found
stepmom,
out. Okay.
got very concerned, and she is now being charged with lewdness.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
So,
Really?
yeah. That's happening right here in this great beehive state of ours.
Which is usually considered a bastion of progressive pro-sex.
You'd think.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what's
crazy
on.
about that is if I were to type boobs into my Google search engine right now, my computer would explode.
Well, what's even crazier about it is the fact that there was a recent lawsuit that happened in the city of Fort something in Colorado that was about boobs being out in public, and the appeals court struck it down and said, and basically made it legal, sort of, for women to have their breasts out anywhere in the 10th Circuit, which is our 10th, 9th. I think it's the 10th.
Fort what, Colorado, Dan?
I don't know.
I need to know.
Well, go. It's fine because it's here too. Like it applies to here. So technically, theoretically, she could have been fine if she had had her boobs out in public. But because it was in her own home, there's some gray area. I don't know. I don't anticipate her getting convicted, but it may happen. We'll see. Anyway. I want to talk today about a phenomenon which, though its name is largely specifically applied to evangelicals in the United States, it's actually deeply embedded in the experience of most Christians and Mormons and many Jews and Muslims and a whole bunch of other folks.
Yeah.
And that is purity culture. Because purity is all about what goes in your hoo-ha.
Yeah. And it's usually the hoo-ha, isn't it? It's not the other way around. It's
Yeah. I mean, and in Mormonism, you can just translate this. I speak fluent Mormon, so I'll just translate it briefly for all of you Mormon listeners out there. We're talking about, well, now I can't think of the word. We're talking about modesty.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's their code word for purity.
Yes. Modest is hottest.
And it all means just keep your hoo-ha from having any invaders. Anyway, earlier this year, a guy I hadn't heard of named Joshua Harris made a shocking confession. It turns out that though I had never heard of him, a fuck ton of evangelicals had definitely heard of him. He was a goddamn celebrity and a $1 million+ best-selling author of the 1997 seminal classic, I Kissed Dating Goodbye. This was a well-researched, psychologically and scientifically supported book on how to have healthy interactions with people you're attracted to. Ha! JK, this was the ramblings of a homeschooled 21-year-old who thought he knew everything he needed to know to prescribe how dating should work for everybody because Jesus. His shocking announcement was that he was admitting to the fact that he was wrong and that he had hurt people with his book. And that now that his Christian books weren't selling as well, he intended to make money off of denouncing them instead, or something along those lines.
That's a great. I should convert to some religion and write a book.
Oh, believe me, no. You would make a fortune if you convert to Christianity and you are able to say former atheist podcaster has converted to Christianity. I promise you can write anything, and it will sell 1 million copies.
I will be in a Pure Flix film by the end of the week.
You will be, and then you can make more money by coming back.
That's right.
So,
the
works
Christian
out great.
community would skin Kevin Sorbo and let you wear him. That's the honorarium you would get. True.
Oh, and that's the end of the podcast. That was great. No, I wanted to talk about what purity culture is and why it's an obvious positive and good for everybody, as long as they're straight cis males who don't believe in the notion that experience leads to higher quality or expertise. So, what are we talking about when we say purity culture? Well, it all stems from the totally normal idea that sex is bad. Mm-hmm. It's really, really bad until you're married, but only straight married, #no-homo. Then it's good. Really, really, really good. Forever and ever, and you'll both live happily ever after in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
The end, no questions.
No, and there will be no question. Yeah. That's right. This was all part of a reaction to the aforementioned sexual revolution. Conservative religious folks were looking at all the fun everybody was having and thought to themselves, well, that can't be right. They don't even have the decency to be drowning themselves in shame. And to top that off, the world of science had actually started to look at sex through a non-religious lens, the heathens. So that led to some people believing correctly that the best way to prevent unwanted pregnancies and the spread of sexually transmitted infections was not to pretend as if they just say it loud enough, people will all abstain from sex until they pick the perfect partner. And that led to sex education in the schools.
Oh, no.
Well, fuck that, said the fundamentalists. And among other things, the Christian homeschool movement was born. This movement released on the world a generation of young people whose only contact with other humans was church and Bible camp. They had never even met a non-Christian, let alone allowed themselves to be influenced by evil outside ideas. As a matter of fact, they knew from their constant training that the outside world had concocted a series of lies to try to destroy them and their relationship to God's true word.
Lies like the female orgasm.
Right.
Oh, my God.
That's one Doug still believes in. Is a lie. Anyway, let's talk about some of the teachings that come with purity culture and what it ends up meaning. We'll open with talking about the rules for women, because it's slightly different.
Well, of course.
Oh,
First
weird.
Of all,
yeah.
Yeah, right? Only slightly. We'll get into it. First, virginity is like a diamond. It's super valuable and precious, but nobody can really tell you why. It's a thing that you have, and then you give it to someone, and then you don't have it anymore. Actually, it may be more accurate to say that a virgin is like a diamond. Virginity is a concept, but a person, specifically a woman, is a real, tangible thing. And if that thing is unstained by sex, then like a diamond with no flaws, she's more valuable. You know, so that when she finally gives herself to a man, he'll be pleased with what he now owns.
Yeah, no objectification there.
No. I mean, basically, I'm doing the nice version.
Right.
I'm
yes.
not doing you're like a chewed piece of gum.
Yeah.
Or if you have sex before marriage, you are a Tootsie Roll that's been unwrapped and passed around and dropped on the ground. These are all very real object lessons that girls in purity culture get.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's all about someone else owning you and owning your sexuality. And that someone is either your future husband or God, depending on who you're talking to. Both are equally creepy.
And also, kind of your father.
And your dad. Well, your dad when you're young, of course, obviously.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's that wonderful tradition we have in many cultures of your father handing you off to the man who owns you now,
right,
while you're wearing a wedding dress on the best day of your life, quote unquote.
On the best day of your life, when you get to be owned by someone new.
Yeah,
yes.
Like passing the reins of a horse from one owner to another.
That's right. Property is exchanged. Congratulations.
It's a beautiful ceremony that we all love so much. All right. The second thing that's taught is that sex within marriage will be great and amazing if you save yourself. We can't tell you why, but it definitely will. Forever. If you get married and it isn't good, you're probably broken and should be so ashamed of yourself that you don't ever tell anybody about it. Maybe try repenting? It's probably because you're a sinner. Yeah, that's probably it. Third, sex in marriage is for the creation of children, period. God wants you to have a family, even if he made you in a way that would make you a really horrible parent. Mm-hmm. Or, if you can't have a family, again, you're probably sinful. So, Jesus, just get your act together. You're a mess. Oh. Mm-hmm. The fourth tenet would be, make no mistake, sex can be about pleasure, the man's pleasure. If you're the vagina haver in the relationship, congratulations, you get the privilege of making sure that the penis haver is happy and content. Doesn't it feel nice to make other people feel good?
Once the dishes are done. I mean,
no. When he wants.
Oh, that's true. Right.
If he wants to interrupt the dishes, you can get back to that afterwards.
Yeah, you can't rape your wife. It's just true.
Oh, see, that's
They
called
believe
irony,
that.
everybody. That's a joke.
Let me tell you something. Yeah. Listen, women who refuse sex are selfish bitches who go against God's command.
Yeah.
So you can take your trauma, pain, and anxiety and stuff that way down deep because your man wants to stuff you way down shallow.
I'm so uncomfortable.
Fifth.
Can we talk about the Mayan calendar again? Tell me more about weenuses, Doug.
How many?
18 weenals.
Nope, you're only allowed to have one weenal in your tune, according to this. Fifth, once you've chosen that very special someone, you're stuck. That shit is permanent. Divorce is failure. It's forever or die.
That's right.
Sixth, sex is a sleeping monster that lives inside of men. It's easy and incredibly dangerous to wake that monster. That's why it's desperately important to cover all of your skin and not play flirtily with your hair in a man's presence. His lust is 100% your problem.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about the rules for the boys. Don't masturbate. Okay, there you have it. Purity culture.
Right.
It's pretty intense, and it's not actually just don't masturbate for the boys. It's not quite that easy. There is a lot of like, but it kind of is. There's a lot of look. We know you can't help it, but try.
Yeah,
but I mean, obviously you can't not do it, but. Try. No, it's cute.
I happen to be a member of a certain secret society.
Right, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there you go. All of this works out great because it's God's plan for people, so he obviously created us in a way that makes sure that these rules work well and are easy to follow, right? Because that's the only way this would make any sense, isn't it? I mean, it would be insane to create people who feel incredibly powerful drives towards sex with multiple partners only to condemn them to subvert, or rather command them to subvert those biological mandates. Right?
Yeah.
Anyone?
That would be,
Is this
that would
thing
be
on?
a sick thing to do. That would be a psychotic thing to do.
Yeah. It would be crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to what effects this has on young people. Joshua Harris talked about how he heard from women who said his books on purity culture were basically weaponized against them.
Right.
They put all of the responsibility for a, quote, pure life on the girls and girls may make these purity promises when they're insanely young. They're told to wear purity rings. They're too young to even really know what sex is.
Yeah.
Some boys do the same thing, but the implications are entirely different. Anyway, this all leads to some pretty fucked up thinking, and it's all about shame. So shame is the name of the game, and that should be a song. I'm not sure which.
Shame.
That was the Monkees. The Monkees
Christian.
did that.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think we can all kind of see where a lot of this is going. You can't trust yourself to make any decisions. Nobody should be making their own decisions about sex because the prescription from Jesus is 100% effective for everybody. It leads to PTSD. Like there are people, and we've talked to some people about this, who have major issues persistent for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Because of this. I read and heard about instances where women, one woman who had been married for several years still had panic attacks 75% of the time when she was trying to have sex.
Oh my God.
In the mandated, in the okay way. Right. She was married. She had made it. She crossed the finish line. Now it's good. But you can't tell somebody something's bad until one moment and then flip the switch.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's not how it works.
Yeah, we talked about religious trauma syndrome a couple weeks ago, and how that this certainly the sexual programming is a tremendous part of that
Absolutely.
pathology. Yeah.
I mean, I heard about women who left the belief system, but still were taking birth control and doing pregnancy tests regularly, despite not having sex.
What?
Just because they were so fucked up about, like, the indoctrination was so deep
Yeah.
that they couldn't feel okay until they knew for sure.
Yeah,
Right.
it's wonderful that the people charged with protecting us and nurturing us and preparing us for life would rather spend time laying these fucking landmines in
Right.
in our prepubescent brains about how broken and fucked up we are.
Right.
But we keep stepping on for the rest of our lives. It's really awesome.
look at how well it worked for them.
Yeah.
They're all healthy and happy people. So,
But sex is the prime directive of not just our species, but all species.
Right.
That's the 4 billion years of evolution is driving this impulse in us and all other creatures.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's associated with impulses and sensations that are meant to facilitate that.
Yeah.
And religion has wrapped that up in a guilt complex.
Well,
right. That's going to fuck you up.
I think a lot of that goes back to, especially in the Christian tradition, the rejection of nature, right? The rejection of
Right.
the
Of
natural
course.
world and putting, the natural world's on the bottom, man is in the middle, and God is above. It's a vertical system. And so everything about the natural
man
world
is an
evil.
enemy to God.
That's right. And everything about the natural order is evil and must be fought with every fiber in our being, when we can't. We are a product of these billions of years of life developing on this planet. We just can't change that because it says so in Timothy. You know?
Well, I mean, it's what's what's his name? Not Dawkins, but
Christopher Hitchens.
Hitchens, who said, God, it's like God created us sick and commands us to be well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
That is the unnatural system. That is the thing that can't be done. And Doug talked about in a really great segment a few weeks ago about Elizabeth and Ed Smart. And for those of you who don't know, she was a kid who was kidnapped. It was a whole fucking nightmare in Salt Lake City, and she was raped repeatedly over the course of 9 months by this lunatic. And part of what, she had many chances to have fled the coop with this guy, but part of what kept playing in her head was a health teacher at a public high school telling her that girls who have had sex before marriage are chewed up pieces of gum.
Right. And she had not chosen to have sex before marriage. She had been raped.
Right.
Yes.
But she thought it still applied.
Right.
Because
that this was her fault. That this was
it doesn't
she
matter
was
if the gum was
problem.
chewed willingly
consent
or
to-
not.
yeah, exactly.
The gum's still chewed.
Yeah.
She's still done.
and in fact-
I heard
Yeah,
I
go
heard
ahead.
one account of a woman, a 27-year-old woman, who was checking the rearview mirror when she was driving around with her fiance, thinking that someone was following her to police their sex, even though she had never even kissed him. Like, this is the depth of this paranoia that is instilled in people is insane.
Well, here's the thing. If that was on the campus of Brigham Young University, it was probably true. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that another time. But
a person we all know, a mutual acquaintance of all of ours, is a woman just a couple years older than me, and she was a young woman when there was a serial killer that was working in Utah called Ted Bundy, and working like he had an assignment that was stalking, and this person in question was a young woman in the Mormon church, and all the young women were called in her ward were called into a meeting and told to stop dressing so slutty because that would make him want, whoever this person was, nobody knew yet, would make him want to kill them. And if they did not die trying to protect their virtue, the sin was on them.
Yeah.
That's purity culture.
Yeah,
Right?
it is insane. I mean, look, you look at the Bible. The Bible actually says that if a woman doesn't scream loud enough when she's being raped, it's her own fault. Like, this goes back. The current of this runs really deep.
well, the good news about that, Uncle Mark, is that person who said that to our mutual friend is almost certainly dead.
Well, and there's also the crazy duality, especially that you plant in girls' heads in this purity culture, that you must be attractive, but not too attractive. You must be men must find you desirable, but not too desirable. right? So
or totally desirable, but only that one guy should find you totally desirable, and somehow you should manage to not turn on any other men.
Yeah.
And it's this impossible position to put them in. Now, mind you, I don't want to downplay how crazed this can also be for boys.
Yeah.
Because we were all victims of this, and it was, and it did mess us up. Like this idea that, I mean, I thought I was sinning every time I masturbated, which as a teenager, I don't know about y'all. I mean, I do know that you, Mark, say that you've said on the show you didn't masturbate until you were in your 20s.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's even physically possible. I'm not sure how your balls didn't explode.
I didn't say they didn't.
Right. For me, it was like, I went a month without masturbating one time just to be godly, and I almost died. I feel like I could have died.
I was very good on my not that this is the subject of the conversation. I was very good on my mission, but I stumbled, so to speak, and had to have those conversations. And it's just the shame and the crying and the I have let down everyone. I have failed. I am unworthy.
And see, this is
I masturbated,
which is natural, and you should, and young men and men should be doing that, and women should be doing that. But certainly young men, and
it's glorious.
Think about the programming I got, where my little secret, there was never a switch that could be flipped, and my sexuality was going to be okay, right? I was never going to cross the marriage threshold, and then it was going to be all right. It was the sin adjacent to murder, homosexuality, and so that luckily hasn't affected me at all.
Fortunately, you made it entirely unscathed on that.
Yes, to your point, Uncle Mark, that's exactly what Ed Smart did.
Yeah.
He was a gay man who married a woman to try and desperately hide from his sexuality. Yeah. And it all turned out okay.
Everything went great.
And who'd have suspected with dear Ed Smart? But that's a topic for another time. So
so here's the thing. Obviously, this is unhealthy.
Yeah.
This thinking is terrible. It can lead to paranoia, self-hatred, a fear of intimacy, depression, masochism.
And suicide.
And often suicide. And all of that continues even after you've left the religion.
Yes.
So part of what I wanted to say was just, if if any of our listeners are experiencing these things, just know you're normal. Like, this shit is insidious. It gets the tendrils go deep into your unconscious, into your soul. And it takes time and work.
That's right.
To slowly extract all of this crazy that wasn't your fault, but it was programmed into you from a young age.
It's almost like you're saying that telling children terribly unhealthy and dangerous things is a bad idea.
It's almost like I'm saying that.
Look, there's more to life. There is more to life than, delivering your package of DNA, living long enough to deliver your package of DNA into a place where it will replicate you. But that's what we're built for. That is
you
what
just ruined sex for me forever.
That is what the system is, right? So you will not be able to change that. You cannot change that. Now, you may be...
I mean, we should acknowledge that there are certain people who are asexual, and that's fine, too. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm just talking about by and large. In the mass...
for those of us who feel those urges, that biological pull, that's normal. That's okay. Go out and have some fun with it. Yeah. Like, I recently saw a clip, I think it was from Weeds, where a guy is a guy in his maybe 30s is talking to a kid in his early teens, and he's lecturing him on the best ways to masturbate, why you should do it, what you should masturbate into, like how to clean up the goo, and it felt transgressive to me. And then I had to ask myself, wait, no. That's what we should be teaching kids. Right. That's how we should be talking to these kids. What are we doing? Why did that feel wrong to me?
Right.
Yeah. Because the programming. As an adult.
And the truth is that if we actually spoke the way we ought to kids, we could get arrested.
Right.
The fact is that people are still, our country is still so puritanical that, a person who speaks in a way that's healthy to children and that acts in a way that is very healthy, including letting them see a human body without freaking out about it, you can be arrested for that, and if convicted, possibly put on a sex offenders list.
You know what's crazy about that is the irony that our current president is the most lecherous porn star fucking person ever.
Disgusting, right? Obvious rapist.
What is wrong with this country?
Yeah. Well, being white and male and heterosexual has its privileges.
Yes.
So,
wow.
Let's enjoy those. Those.
Yeah. Well, everybody, get out there and have some sex, and get therapy if you need it.
And
it's good for you.
And as Daryl Ray said, your first and last sex partner may likely be yourself, so don't count that out. Get in there. Have a good time. All right.
Let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's Scattered Show.
Hey, if you've got a tune in your Bach tune, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you've got any chewed gum kind of porn suggestions, you can leave us an email, or you can leave us an email on our phone number. I don't know how you do that. At 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. I'm also on Twitter, even though clearly I'm an idiot and I shouldn't be. We're
going to get this down one of these days.
Yeah.
Yes.
And thanks to our awesome patrons.
Yes. And thanks you, Cody Layton, for editing the show.
And thank you, friends, for tuning in.
Bye, friends.
Au revoir.